Jimmy K here, Metal Voice. Look at this. The Metal Voice shirts are now on sale. Just go to the video description to find out on how you can purchase one. Metal!
Okay, here we are at the Metal Voice backstage with Lizzy Borden. And I gotta be honest, I come in here expecting the big bouffant blonde hair from the 80s and look at what we get here. This is fantastic.
Yeah, that guy's been gone for like 25 years.
You know, looking back at Love You to Pieces, that album cover back in the day, like how's the music scene changed from when you first started out? I mean,
it's coming full circle. I hate to use that term because everyone uses it, but in our case, it's really, when we started, it was all 15-year-olds in the audience, and it was just hysteria and this new phenomenon, this new whole thing. It was 1983, and all these bands were coming at the same time in the same location. It was part of this big thing. And then all these years later, the last tour we did, Europe, it was all young kids again. And it was like, what's going on here? This is a new kind of thing that we haven't experienced in a long time. So this is our first tour in North America in quite a long time, or in North America and Canada. And so, you know, we're usually in Europe or the Asian markets or South America. So this is a really unique experience for us to see what the fan base is doing these days, you know, because we don't know, you know, and this tour has been amazing. Every show has been really amazing.
But how'd you get onto this tour? I mean, it's sold out again tonight. Like, how'd you ever hook up with these guys?
They requested us. John from Demons and Wizards is a huge Lizzy Borden fan.
Cool.
Loves the album you just mentioned, Love You to Pieces. And actually, we're going to work together in some capacity based on that album. Yeah, so we've got some things going that we've been talking about since we've been on this tour. So yeah, he requested us, and we just happened to be in line looking for something that would be interesting, and this is definitely an interesting tour. I mean, Tyr, Demons and Wizards, and Lizzy Borden, all three bands are very different from each other, but every single audience has loved all three bands, which is not usual, especially in North America. Usually you get all bands that sound alike together.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's very unique to have three different bands that don't sound anything like each other. And there's elements that we all have, but for the most part, we're very different. And the audience has been loving it. And that's the thing Europe has been getting for decades. You know, they get a lot of different styles of music within a broader genre. So I'm happy to see it coming here in Canada.
Well, like you said, full circle. That's how it was in the 60s. You look at the hit parade.
Exactly.
You had Leslie Gore next to the Rascals. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that was phenomenon. That was just like the way to do it, because you're exposed to. I mean, the first time we played Sweden Rock, we went around and saw some of the, because we had played a lot of other festivals, and they were all every band sounded like each other. And then, but at Sweden Rock, we started going around all different stages going, I love this band. I would have never even heard of this band if I hadn't seen them. And
right.
Now I'm a fan, you know. And that's the kind of thing that I wish would come back. And with this tour, in a small way, it has.
And then you go, you know, like you say, you're out there promoting My Midnight Things that was released a year ago. So now it's like a fine wine. It's been out there, it's breathing. What's the total feedback ever since you released it?
It's the best reviewed album I've ever had.
Okay.
It's the first album to chart since 1989 Master of Disguise.
Yeah.
It has just exploded, and I've never seen such positivity toward one record in my whole career.
Great.
I've always had mixed reviews or whatever, you know, they wish we were this and wish we were this, but for some reason this album is like down the middle of the road as far as making people happy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more happy because I had no clue. I figured it was going to be another mixed response album, but it's been like 90% all positive.
Yeah, and you've been, you know, released what, every 8 years, so we can look for another one?
No, that was only because the record industry imploded.
Yeah.
So I put out 2 records that didn't do anything because there was no record company. I mean, it came out on a record label, but there was no structure holding it up. So there was just a waste.
It just fell by the wayside. Yeah.
I mean, I spent 9 months on one of my records that no one ever knows exists. So yeah, it was no point. So and we were touring all over the world, and so we just did that, and that was the only reason that gap is there.
Yeah.
But now that the industry kind of finding a way, and with streaming and all that other stuff, you have to adapt. So we are adapting, and there'll be a new record. I'm hoping. Well, we have some things planned for next year, but the year after, I'm hoping a brand new record.
Okay. And the theatricality, I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
No. This is his everyday shopping clothes.
This is just. I'm toning it down for this tour.
So, who are some of your influences? I mean, I'm just growing up, Alice Cooper, Kiss.
All the above. My first concert was Kiss.
Oh, cool.
And that was I was 15, and I said, I want that job. I want that job. That was the job I wanted.
Another thing you and Jon can bond over. Him being a huge Kiss fan as well.
He wears a cool Kiss Alive 2 shirt around. But yeah, I mean, Kiss was everything. It still is. I mean, I just saw them on their farewell tour, and I was just blown away. I just loved it. You know, I mean, it's you know, to be able to do what they did way back then and translate it to a young audience now, and you know, everybody, and have it be so entertaining. To me, that's what it's all about.
And My Midnight Things. A year ago, we interviewed you. You were happy. Everything that it meant a little something to everybody, and you said, "I'll let you know down the road what it's about." Are we at that point, or you're letting everybody's imagination go wild?
You know, especially all the reviews. They've you know, I've had reviewers review my records and not understand it at all, and I just go, okay, well, whatever. This album, everyone's kind of hip to the fact that you have to make your own translation, and all the reviewers have done that, saying, you know, this record is whatever you think it is, and that's what I wanted, you know, because I make conceptual records, but I don't like to make a storyline. I have a storyline in my head, and I have a main character, but I don't want the listener to come up with mine. I want, if you hear a song, you know, I've heard people say what certain song is on this album, what they think it is, and I just say yes, but even if it's completely opposite of what I was thinking. And that to me is the closest thing to art in this genre. You know, you get people to go, this is what I think this is about, this is my take on it, you know. So I don't want to disrupt that with a storyline, you know. And that's why I write in kind of poetry form rather than a story, you know. So, but there are main characters, and if I could write a script for each one of my albums, you know, based on the main character going through his trials and tribulations.
That's what why the videos are so good too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that is, again, a director will come on board for whatever the video and say, I think this is what this song's about, even if it's not. But I'll say, okay, I respect your vision, because that's what you hear when you hear this music. It's what you hear when you read these lyrics. So let's do it your way, you know, and then we kind of go and we mix and match and try to come up with these videos that really, I mean, we can make these videos a million different ways, and that's what I like. It doesn't have to be, okay, well, he's the devil, so he's going to play the devil, you know. There's so many elements to it.
And like you're saying, you're seeing the 15-year-olds coming out in the crowd. I mean, I've been listening to the album. I can see the little bit more of a pop influence, and Ghost is kind of that way too, and he's very theatrical as well, and maybe there's a link between what they're doing and what you're also doing.
Well, I mean, I grew up on the band that seems to be their main influence, Blue Oyster Cult.
Right,
I mean, I've probably seen Blue Oyster Cult maybe at least 25, 30 times since my childhood.
Right.
So they had a huge impact on me. But a lot of those bands did. I mean, I went to see everything. That was my college.
Right.
I just said, I need to learn how to do this, and I need to learn from the best, the people that are actually drawing people.
Yeah.
So my whole childhood, I went to every single concert, even if I didn't like the band. I wanted to see what to do and what not to do. And that was kind of what I did. And so, you know, Blue Oyster Cult always played the West Coast all the time. So I went to see them every single time, and I love them. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's a pop element to it. But
compared to your past albums?
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Our first single was "Save Me," and that's kind of a pop song on a heavy record. Yeah. So I've always dabbled in these sorts of pop imagery and more of a basic song that anyone could like. But I also do the other stuff too. So you know, But with this album, I definitely, I didn't want to make a typical heavy metal album. I knew the vocals were going to be the star, so all the music was secondary to the vocals. So I wanted to make sure that, and when you make the vocals a star, it's usually a pop thing. But in this case, it's still classic metal, but it was a little different. I didn't do much metal guitars on this because I didn't want to be pigeonholed to, I didn't want to put an 80s record out in 2019, it just didn't make sense.
And you see the comments on the internet, I mean, the heavy metal fans are the most loyal fans there are, but sometimes they do pigeonhole their artists a little bit. And that's why I liked it. It was refreshing for me listening to past stuff like Master of Disguise. And you have to take it for what it is. Like you said, we're in the 2018 instead of 1986, right?
Yeah, there are people that want me to go ahead and record the same record that I recorded before. But even when I did Master of Disguise, which is my biggest selling record, I had a 40-piece orchestra. Oh. It had all sorts of things going on, that we never did in the past. And it became our biggest selling record. So, I always say that, like, it wouldn't have sold if people didn't like it.
Right. No, and mission accomplished with the vocals. I mean, it's layers upon layers. It's so well done, and you still got the chops, right?
I hope so. But yeah, Queen was a big influence on the orchestral vocal lines and lyrics intertwining together. And I've done that in the last 2 or 3 records. Actually, since Master of Disguise, I've been doing that sort of thing where you could take all the music and the vocals would carry the song. There's so many vocals going on that the melody itself is creating music, without any music, So, because I've heard all the vocal tracks separated, and it's like, well, you don't even need the music.
Yeah.
And that was my goal. I really wanted it to be a Queen-esque with a little bit of metal, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and try to see what happened.
And just talking of that, and you said earlier, you're mentioning what you're doing with Jon Schaffer down the road. I mean, that whole orchestration would just lend itself to Jon's music. I'm excited to hear you might be collaborating.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We're just talking about certain things, and he's a big fan of Lovely Pieces, and next year is the 35th anniversary.
Oh, wow,
of Lovely
already, yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what we do on all of that. We've just been talking about it lately, so we'll see. I mean, but yeah, there's lots of interesting things going on, but they're definitely going to be a new record. In fact, when I'm done with this tour, I go right back into writing sessions.
Oh, fantastic. So we don't have to wait another 8 years.
No,
fantastic.
No. I'm actually very anxious to make another one.
There we are with Lizzy Borden. He'll be out on stage shortly. Thanks very much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Meeting you.
And here we are at the Metal Voice backstage with Lizzy Borden.